We are live. Excellent. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the third and probably final, I'll say it up front, Cloud, no, wait, Community Circle Cloud Conversation Club. My name is Grant Fritchie. I work for Redgate Software, and I have got a couple of friends with me today. I will let them introduce themselves.
Okay, that one over there is without the beard is Frank.
Yeah, and with the beard as well.
Excellent. So
Okay.
that's Rob Sewell and Frank Geisler.
Yeah, perfect.
Yay. My,
Perfect.
my, my German pronunciation is still a little bit there, even though I've kind of stopped studying it. All right, so we are here to talk about the cloud today. We actually have a viewer already. Yay. Cool. We are here to talk about the cloud, but we are here more specifically to talk about data in the cloud. The
Mhm.
topic specifically is supposed to be services in support of your data.
Mhm.
Oh, hang on. Looks like we've got Kellen's waiting.
Well, bang goes us finishing early then.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that's the end of everything. There we go. I figured out how to disable the waiting room finally.
Okay.
So for those who are watching, we're waiting a second here for Kellen to come in because I had left her accidentally in the waiting room. She's coming in here just
See how
shortly.
you are.
Hey,
Hello,
yes,
how are you?
I'm
Hey.
a horrible person.
You left me in the waiting room.
I did not mean to leave you in the waiting room. I apologize.
Look, I'm going to take off my virtual background because no one needs to see those kitties and it's much nicer out. So
Oh, look at that. That's
Oh,
beautiful.
nice.
Yeah. God, now I wish I was
we
outside.
leave here tomorrow though. So, and you can see the big Class A behind us, but that's
Cool.
not ours. That's not ours. So,
Well, we've already did quick introductions, but I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
my name is Kellen Gorman. I'm coming to you from my RV in Gig Harbor, Washington, and I am an Oracle subject matter expert in Azure at Microsoft.
There we
And that's
go.
all you get.
No, it's good enough. That's all we
It's
need.
Friday.
Yeah, it is. It's Friday. It is Friday. This is a hard Friday. I gotta say, I'm
It
personally
is.
having a having a hard day today, but getting through it all. Good humor, intact. The goal today is to talk about the cloud, but more specifically, talk about data services in the cloud. Not specifically databases, but services in support of your data. For example, I'll give you one: Power BI. Power BI is something that runs on Azure, and it's a way to consume data. Give me another one.
For me, it's a lot of supporting the database itself. When we start talking about services, people many times don't think about their backups and everything else.
Mhm.
I love ASR, Azure Site Recovery, the ability to, since we do a lot with infrastructure as a service, being able to do those VM snapshots. And even with an Oracle database, it may not be Oracle aware, but I can do a snapshot, recover that snapshot, and then apply the logs and bring up the database. And it saves me a lot of time versus doing a full recovery.
Sweet.
That's a cool one. I like that one.
Yeah.
What have you got, Rob? Give me another one.
I was going to go because it's in a place where I am at the moment. Things like Databricks, machine learning,
Ooh.
all of those predictive analytic things that go on. I haven't got a clue how they work. Like,
Really? So
Like
I'm going to tell
seriously.
you, I was a coach on an open hack the last 3 days, and Databricks was the cornerstone of that. It was the modern data warehouse. And the thing that I love about Databricks, and I am still new to it, so I went through, I won't lie to anybody, it was the configuration hell of getting it all up and running. Once it got up running, it was great because it was such a collaborative experience, and we had people at different speeds of work where some people were just kind of, I'm going to be a cowboy and just go and do things. And you had other folks that worked very
Mhm.
methodically, and it makes them collaborate and they're able to share their notebooks. And it didn't matter which language you were doing it in. And you had unit tests being built in one piece of the notebook, and you had other people that were solving other challenges in another. And it really works with that whole agile development. And one of the things that we were challenged with is they were trying to transform some of the data, and the DBA was in on it. And they said, wait a second, we've already got all of these transformations built into the data warehouse. You don't have to do that. And it saved us work. And you start thinking about it that way. Databricks is just a game changer for me. I think it's awesome.
So I got a question about that precise piece of information. At what point, when you're enriching your data, do you store it in a persistent RDMS to keep the old bearded, and it wasn't this old bearded, it was a different old bearded DBA happy?
Yeah.
Whilst other people might be saying, well, hang on a minute, this is dynamic, this is something that we want to put into an API, and you also, this data is persisted in a data warehouse. It's not going to be suitable for an OLTP workload type scenario. So where does that line lie? How do you define that?
So first question, was the DBA going, this is data, it belongs in my database and I'm taking care of it? Was that it? They wanted control over it?
No, it wasn't a control thing. It was an understanding of, well, what are you guys doing? Well, we're taking this piece of data and we're combining it with this open source stuff that comes from the government, and then we're enriching it. And he's like, great, and then we'll store it in the database, because that's how his understanding
Mindset.
of what you do with data does. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just curious.
I went through this epiphany as I was watching them, knowing that all of the data was already in the data warehouse, and I'm watching them, and we all know this, the to date, to integer, to, time, and all those transformations. I'm watching them learn how to do this inside the Databricks and inside Azure Data Flows and all this other stuff. And they're wrapping their brain about it. Okay, now we need to trim off the time zone. And they're going through all these things. And I'm like, it's already over there. It's already over. And at the same time, I'm going, well, why don't they do it over there? And I won't have to massage it inside the database. I'm all right with this. Let them go. Let them go. And at the same time, when do you make that decision? And it had to do with, where do I distribute the actual resource usage? I'm an optimization specialist, so I'm going, where do I want that workload to actually reside? That had to do with my decision making over going, where does it actually sit? It was where in the process they needed the data, and that was my decision. And for me, I kind of said, I do have like my dim date, on my dimension tables, my star schema sitting in the data warehouse, but for them to dynamically generate all of this inside the data warehouse would be a lot of resources that I didn't think were right at the time of processing, and I would rather have it done earlier on. And I know, in Azure SQL with Azure Data Warehouse and now Synapse, they have materialized views, but in Oracle, I knew that I would end up implementing a materialized view inside that Oracle data warehouse. So that to me said, Kellen, don't do it in the data warehouse. Let them move it back into the processing and transformation piece. Don't do it in the database. So that was what the decision was, is, am I creating a workaround inside the database before it ends up in a final resting place? If I'm doing that, stop, let them do it in the transformation step.
That's interesting. Frank.
Yeah.
Give me a service.
Well, we talked much about services where you can analyze data, but another service which is very interesting and also a very important service is how to get data into the database. And what you can use there in Azure is Azure Data Factory to put data into databases like, for example, managed instance, or maybe even Azure SQL database, or whatever you like. So I think this is another important service. On the other hand, there are some other things which maybe or maybe not can replace this. For example, it depends a lot what you're using as a technology. What you can use as well is you can use Power BI data flows, for example, to get data from wherever, to put them, for example, in a common data model or something like this. So there are so many, and there's something which I like really much about Azure. If you look at Azure, you see, well, there is an overwhelming number of services and things and whatever, but I don't think that any person would be able to know everything about it. But on the other hand, you can pick these services or you can pick these things that you can use for your implementation or for your solution. And it's more like I think it's more like a box with Lego bricks, and you can just build your solution, whatever you like.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things I've always gotten a kick out of was, I mean, I'm going to pick on Microsoft a little tiny bit, just a little tiny bit,
Hmm?
is when I moved into Azure back in
Hmm?
'09. God, I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
Um, I'm old. Anyway, when I first moved into it, the one thing that I missed immediately, as a a traditional boring old SQL Server DBA, was oh my God, I don't have SQL Agent. How am I going to live?
Hmm?
Right? I mean, so that was my instantaneous like, oh my God, I can't live. I don't have SQL Agent. So here's my little pick on Microsoft. Not the fact that SQL Agent's missing. It's the fact that there must be 100 scheduling services
Yes.
inside of Azure. And it's not a question of like, can I schedule things and how do I
Yeah.
effectively manage it? It's which one do I pick?
Yeah.
Is it like,
Yeah.
do I
Yeah.
have one for each day of the week, or I mean, like, oh my God. So I mean, the services that support you there are just amazing. So I mean,
Hmm.
as I'm joking that I'm picking on them, it's the fact is that there's so many different ways to get things done.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And even coming up with a solution, when we start talking about how many different products have the term data flow in it,
yeah. Yeah.
that drove some of us crazy as we were like,
Yeah.
so wait a second, there's a data flow in Azure data, Azure data flow. We got Azure data flow, we got Power BI with data flows in it. We've
Mm.
got, Azure Databricks, you can build out data flows. And we were trying to figure out all the different ways of doing it. And even as, I was saying, we were in this modern data warehouse. There were multiple solutions, and you had to make sure that your team didn't go down a rabbit hole with the
Yeah.
combination they chose.
Right.
So
Mm.
that's part of architecting anything, is
Yes.
making sure that you don't build yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
And there's all
Definitely.
the power things,
Mm. Yeah.
the power platform that's out there. And some of the stuff that goes on in there is astonishing.
Yes.
Oh yeah. By the way, for people watching, and there are a few people watching, you can type questions into the live chat, and you should be able to see those questions come in, and we can ask them anything. But what we are talking about is services in support of your data.
Mm.
Um, well, one of the other things I like in Azure, I mean, I should mention AWS at some point, just so we bring in other cloud vendors, but I know Azure better. I'm learning AWS, but I haven't learned it. Um, and saying that's weird, right? I've learned AWS. No, I haven't. I've learned this little narrow, little
Mm.
tiny bit of a slice of it. Same
I was
thing with
going to say,
Azure.
excellent. Come back when you finished learning it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no kidding. Oh my God. Yeah, no, no, thanks. Pass.
Okay.
Um, but what was I going to say? Oh, one of the services I like in Azure. Again, I'm a big platform as a service guy. I love so
Mm.
much those things, and I recognize that there are limitations, and I recognize that there's issues. But one of the things I love that's offered with the Azure SQL database, and it's with Postgres and MySQL as well as
Mm.
SQL Server, um, is the global failover capabilities.
Mm.
That's just
Mm.
mind-numbingly amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's just the service that's there. I mean, you pay for it, but oh my God, I could set it up so that I've got a database running in North America, but it fails over to Australia or Europe, depending. I mean, that's
And
so
and
cool.
what I think what's really crazy and mind blowing is that it is that everything is really fast. So, for example, if I'm here in Germany just deploying a virtual machine, for example, to the US or something like this, and I can RDP into it, and I can just work like if I was working on my own box. And I think because there's no lag, there's nothing. I think you all know the times when we were doing things with ISDN and with Simon Tech Anywhere or something like this, and this will and you just move the mouse and you have to wait. Well, the mouse goes over there. Well, back and there are no real lags or something like this. I can talk about when using all this Azure stuff, right?
And that's, I think, one of the biggest, I guess, epiphanies that most people have when they move to the cloud is they think it's going to be so different. And, you talk about all the services you have to learn and all that. That is an uphill battle. But when you get out there, and especially, when we start talking about infrastructure as a service or any of those, it's not that different than the way it was before.
No.
You have most of your tools that you're able to access everything. Even when I bring up, like, I still bring up Management Studio. Most of us won't admit it, but I will. And it says first thing when I connect to an Azure service, oh, I see what your IP address is. Would you like to create a firewall rule? It helps me along. And suddenly I'm working just the way I did before. Nothing's changed.
Exactly. Or for example, if you're doing a project in Visual Studio, a database project, it doesn't matter where to deploy it. You can deploy it on your own box. You can deploy it maybe on a Docker container on your box, but you can easily deploy it to SQL Azure database. It's just a matter of the connection string.
Right. Yeah. It's great stuff. I mean oh damn, I had a point. Okay, I am getting old.
It's Friday. It's Friday, Grant.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh well, couldn't have been that important.
It'll come to you at 3 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no
That's how
kidding.
it is for me.
Come wake up screaming.
But on the other hand, talking about all the tools and everything, I think we're living in very interesting times as well, because if you choose one platform, you're not really bound to this platform anymore. Because, for example, what I did talk today on how to run Docker in VSL 2 on a Windows box, right? And how crazy is that there, if you're getting a Windows box, that there is a Linux included? I think maybe unthinkable 5 or 10 years ago, and now and even if we're talking about this data science space, you can choose whatever you like. You can choose Python, you can choose R, you can choose.
Yeah, it really is. It really is incredible, and the services are just great. I mean, I did remember what I was going to bring up. The DevOps services. AWS pipelines, Azure pipelines. The DevOps pipelines in Azure are just incredible. I mean, there's a million different little plugins that will support your database, and yeah, okay, I do work for a vendor.
Version control.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Source control for everything, right? I mean, but it's
including your pipeline.
Including your pipeline. Yeah. I mean, I still hate YAML, but you've made me accept it. It was you did it.
and the reason, so here is the reason that I grew to love YAML so much for these pipelines, was we had a scenario where we started supporting a team in another country, and they had more permissions to the pipeline than they should have done as developers, and we would set up the pipeline so that it would work with this slightly confusing, complicated scenario, and then somebody would change something. Now, there's two problems. Number one problem is you can't really see who's changed it.
Yeah.
And the second problem is it was great because it kept a history, so you could compare how it was when I know it worked with how it looks like now, but that was just a massive XML, and you had to try and work out what does that relate to be able to go back in and set it back. And then you switch that and you turn that into, here is your Azure pipeline in YAML. Okay, YAML spaces, it's a pain, but
right.
Yeah.
If if you change the pipeline and it does something different, we can see, oh, you committed to do that. Oh yeah, you were trying to deploy to a different region. Oh right, hang on a minute. Yeah, no, you spelt that wrong or whatever.
Right.
Right, okay, we can fix that. We type in some code, we write a commit message, bing, send it up, and away it goes. But then that's good for the techies. The next beautiful thing about Azure Pipeline is you can put dashboards in front of it. You can put it in front of a project manager or a change manager or a release manager,
Yeah.
and they can say, well, what happens when we release this artifact? Well, here you go. You can see how it's progressed. You can see the tests that have been done. You can see the results. You can see who's approved it. You can check that the work items have been closed off. You can do all of this thing here in this one place.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe another thing to this is what I like on Azure DevOps is that is software as a service, and anyone can do it, because the only thing what you have to do is you just have to spin it up. So what we do at our company, or what I did a long time ago, was I was setting up a Team Foundation server for us to work with. So it's no rocket science to do this, but it's work, right?
Yeah.
And this is you just start Azure DevOps and there you go, and then you can start working with it productively, which is really cool.
Yeah,
it is quick to stand up.
Oh yeah, and I could say so much about it. I mean, I love how agnostic it is. So if you want to deploy to Oracle, deploy to Oracle, right? You want to, it's just like it's just do what you need to get done. Okay, what other services are there in support of your databases, guys? Or I'm sorry, that's bad. In support of your data. Sorry.
Data is important, definitely.
Yeah. Yes.
Cognitive services.
Sorry.
Cognitive services.
Oh yes.
Ooh.
Very cool.
What are those? For people listening, not for me.
Did you just hand us the buzzword, Rob, and then walk away?
Yeah. Well, if we're thinking about data, so data is not only the data that we might know as transactional data or something like this, but data could be anything like videos, like pictures, like text, like whatever, and it's very hard for a computer to understand that, right? And what Microsoft did is they produced these cognitive services where there are a lot of different cognitive services for different areas. For example, you have a face recognition API, which can not only recognize who you are, but if it knows it, but it can also recognize your mood. So a friend of mine did something with this API, which was cocktail suggestion application, which works the way that it shows you a picture of a cocktail, and then it makes a snapshot of your face, and it tries to find out when are you looking happy and when are you not looking happy. So it suggests which is your favorite cocktail. And I think if you would do this without cognitive services, would be a very hard thing to do. But on the other hand, all these services are out there, and this is only one example. Another example is, for example, image recognition service where you can, which will recognize what's on the picture. Is it a smartphone, or is it a laptop, or whatever? And that is very cool. And there is another thing to this, which is also very cool, is that you can. So maybe people have problems with, well, when I'm using this, I will send all the information or all the data to the cloud, and Microsoft will do something and give me a thing back. And what you can do as well is you can export this to a Docker container, so you will keep the data within your own organization. And the only thing which will be used for an internet connection would be the billing information, which is cool as well.
Oh, cool.
And there are plenty other things, like, for example, Lewis, which tries to understand language.
Well, yeah, I mean, don't they have a sentiment analysis
Yes, that's
Yep.
very cool. What I did last year, I was writing in German. I was writing the book Power BI for Dummies, or it's not an English book. And what I did there was I did a sentiment analysis on Twitter tweets with Power Flow and with Power BI, and it was so easy. So you can
Yeah.
just if you think about what this is, you have a sentiment analysis for Twitter tweets, and you can set it up in within 15 minutes, and it will work.
Oh,
It's
that's
so
that's
crazy.
amazing.
It's crazy.
We did it with the PowerShell conference Europe
Yeah.
tweets from
Yeah.
it was last year or the year before maybe,
Mm.
and we just took all of the tweets that had the PSConfEU
Mm.
hashtag, and we ran them with Flow through the sentiment analysis, and then pushed that into an Azure SQL database, and then put a Power BI report over the top. And then as we went through the conference, Tobias would come and pick it up and go, "Oh, look, yeah."
Right.
We had a little competition as to who was the most and least positive about PSConfEU with their tweets.
Yeah.
So you can have fun with it as well.
Yeah. And really, it's amazing how
Yeah.
quick this could be set up. It's really
It's making all of these things that 5 or 10 years ago would require somebody to really know how to code in this language and do
Yes.
this thing, capable for a numpty with a beard to spend an hour reading some documentation and then build something that makes even him go, "Wow, I did that."
Well, yeah. I mean, I had somebody.
Now anybody can.
yeah.
I had somebody
Yeah.
5 years ago come up to me saying, "Oh, well, we did some sentiment analysis on I forget some conference I was at, and you did really well." And I'm like, "Cool, can you share that with me?" And they're like, "Oh, no, secret sauce, secret sauce."
Mhm.
I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay, not anymore."
No.
So it's yay, awesome. Well, that's cool. Cognitive services are neat. That would be
Mm.
probably something I should look at more
What
in my
about
spare
less
time.
neat and kind of dry but important is identity services as well, especially with security issues and that.
Yeah.
I don't know how often that I have relied on simplification of single sign-on and everything else for many of the projects that I'm on.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's huge. Although I have a bit of a problem with it because I try to maintain two different, well, actually, technically three different logins, and
Mm.
it
Uh,
it doesn't like me when I do that.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Then
Especially
the
when you're going from a, Active Directory to Azure Active
Yeah.
Directory that don't seem to play nice together either. So
Yeah.
that's interesting too.
But I
That's
think
what-
the things that have come up even more with all of this understanding of data and streaming data and analysis of data is the security notifications
Mm.
and how quickly those can get
Yeah.
responded to, and the things that you can build that can automatically fix things, automatically create incidents or notify people or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
We watched Jeffrey Snover at doing an incident, a red team exercise, and the red teamers say, "Okay, so just download this and install this and da 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 da." So everybody does it. Jeffrey did it, and literally within 10 minutes, some poor person in Microsoft support somewhere is phoning up a technical fellow going, "Yeah, what are you doing, sir? You appear to have some sort of dangerous software on your laptop." And he laughed because it was a brilliant example of how good their response was
right.
to that. But it really demonstrated how in the background all of this analysis, all of this I've lost the word, was happening that made him, as somebody like this, somebody whose account we need to be really safe about. Something's happened, it's been alerted, it's gone up the chain, and it's come through. All of this stuff is really good compared to 10 years ago when you've got like, "Oh, I've got 10,000 alerts coming into my email box, I'll just put them into a folder," and we never look
and never
right, no
look at
worries.
them. Oh yeah.
Weren't you
But that's
alerted about your disk space running out? Yeah, but it was in a folder we never looked at.
Hmm.
that's called the white noise incident. I mean, I used to have to
Yeah.
deal that with Oracle
Yeah.
because when Enterprise Manager 12c was first written, it was in the hands of developers, and they're like, "What alerts can we all turn on?" So it went to production that way, and everybody just sent everything to dev null. Everything went to garbage, and so I had to write. I mean, I have 6-part posts telling people how to stop the insanity. That's exactly what it's called: stop the insanity, and how to alert correctly. And I said, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, I don't care if those are coming in," but you're not paying attention to what you should be.
Yes.
Yep.
This is not the way to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a nightmare. So yeah, it's the same thing. And people are then fearful of turning on any kind of alerts. They're fearful of setting on services, and you need to have it done right. What really needs to wake you up at night? What do you really need to know about? And you will have those bosses that say, "Well, we need to know about everything."
Oh,
Good,
yeah.
I'll send it to your inbox.
Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
I
what's
say
another
that to them too.
what's another interesting point about things like Azure Active Directory is that everyone, even small companies, can have an enterprise-grade security solution. For example, if you're a really small company and we didn't have Azure Active Directory, how difficult it would be, for example, to implement two-factor authentication or something like this. And
Right.
in Azure Active Directory, it's more or less a click of a button.
Sorry, I'm just checking the chat, see if anybody's talking. So you guys can keep talking.
Yeah.
Oh, we have no questions. They're all going, "We're just going to let you guys roll on and just ramble on." It's all right.
And talking about two-factor authentication, it's also that it is very intelligent, because on the one hand you have two-factor authentication if you're outside of your company, and then you will get these SMS on your phone where you just type in a number. And on the other hand, if you're within your company, then it recognizes, well, you're within the company network. So this is a second authentication thing here, and then you just have to put in your password and your username as you do normally. So this is another interesting thing here.
Or when you're in the UK and your VPN comes out in a European country, and suddenly it then triggers that Azure tenant to go, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
An hour and a half ago, you were coming out of the UK, and now you're coming out of somewhere else.
Oh yeah, I got in trouble on that one at work because for some reason, don't ask me why, I put my VPN on Bhutan or something, and whoa, there was several emails that yeah, I
Did you get in trouble, Grant?
I got a finger wagging. I didn't really get in trouble.
I don't know. I just got in trouble for being on the wrong, I guess, group tenant. I moved groups back in January, and they're like, "You need to move all those resources that are being charged to this team. It's the wrong team." I'm like, "Oh, that's right. I need to, because I'm building out all these databases so I can do proof of concepts, before I have customers do it. That's always the best thing. And they're like, "No, you need to move this all over." And I'm constantly moving time zones and regions. We won't even discuss that. So
yeah, no kidding. Oh man, that's fun. Well, another one of the services I like is the and this one's controversial. I don't know why, but it is. I like the automatic tuning. I love the automatic tuning.
That's cool.
But I mean, if you're managing one database, why would you turn it on, right? I mean, 'cause you could do a better job yourself. But it's when you're managing 1,000, why would you not turn it on?
but you can only do a better job yourself if you know about it.
True. Yeah.
So if you're not a very experienced database person or something like this, then it's really a great thing. So your database will automatically tune.
So what does it mean? How does it do it? Can you guys explain it for the viewers?
say that again. The actual auto tuning or what?
Yeah. How's the auto tuning work?
because I was going to jump in and say that one of the reasons that I don't turn it on is that I believe if you don't use it, you lose it. And I'm an automation and optimizations person, so I'm constantly making myself learn about how to optimize a database, and I never turn it on. So I'm not one who uses this feature.
Right. No, that's fair enough.
So,
Go ahead.
So there are different things about auto tuning in SQL Server. So first of all, there is this option which is called auto tuning, which builds upon the query store. In SQL Server 2016, there is the query store, and if you turn it on, then it will put in information about the execution plans for queries and the telemetry for this, how long it took, how many records, whatever. And in 2016, the problem was when you have queries which have degrading performance, you had to look into it yourself. So you could just go into the query store and you can try to make sense of what is there and maybe then force another plan. And from 2017 on, when you turn on auto tuning and when you turn on the query store, this is something which SQL Server can do for you automatically. So what it will do is it will check whether the query plan for a certain query has changed, and if the change is beneficial or not. So if the query plan changed to another query plan for the same query, and then the execution time of the query rises, then you can just use this force last good plan or something like this, and then it will just take another query plan where it will where it was faster.
Right. Cool. Yeah, and I do love that one. But now there's another one, right?
Yeah,
In
more
Azure.
than that.
In Azure only.
In Azure only. Oh, so
where it can, well, so what it does is they've put their machine learning to work, and it is again taking advantage of Query Store. But what they do is it will watch your indexes.
Okay.
And it will identify indexes that you're not using and remove them.
Yeah.
Only if they're
How
not.
do we feel about that?
I
mean,
love it.
for me, I'm great. You must justify any index you have. But I can see developers coming to you going, oh, my index I asked for is gone that you created.
Well, here's the stats that say that index was never used because SQL Server decided to go in a different way. So actually, everybody's happy with the performance of your query. Ta-da!
Yeah, and it can
We do that
create
in Oracle
indexes too.
Yep.
It can create indexes as well, which is awesome. I mean, I just love it. The only thing it can't do is it can't drop a unique index, which is right and proper.
Yeah.
And it can't create a unique index, which is a little sad. Not terribly so, but.
But talking about auto tuning, there is another option which newer SQL Server versions will use, which is called adaptive query processing, which just tries to do some performance optimization on your queries as well. So they introduced it with SQL Server 2017, and they build upon the work they did there in 2019 and did some more things.
Yeah, and there's more stuff coming. That's
yeah.
That bit's creepy and wild. Okay, cool. Well, what other services are there that we haven't talked about yet in support of data? I mean, there's a lot of support services, but there's a lot more services than we have talked about services.
We're back into that kind of overlapping between Power BI and analysis services, and I know the need is there for that semantic model. But I'm always curious about when we're going to flip that switch and say Power BI has, because there is analysis services underneath the covers in Power BI, of saying Power BI is souped up enough that it is evolved enough that analysis services may no longer be needed. So that's always a discussion I'm curious about.
I'd say yesterday. I haven't touched analysis services. I mean, partly it's my job, but I haven't touched analysis services in like 12 years.
So let's think about this. So you've got Power BI Pro licenses or Power BI Premium licenses.
Sure.
And you have certain allocations and power that's going to be behind those. They are, a service.
Sure.
They are a service. And that customer needs something with some more horsepower. How would you distribute that workload more effectively if premium couldn't handle it? Because then, let's say you need more on the line of, because there is this challenge, premium, of saying, I'm throwing all of this at premium at once, versus I have all these pro licenses that may be running things at different times. And then they need a semantic model to actually massage that data a little more effectively.
Okay.
Where would you distribute it and say you still need analysis services to handle that?
I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I'm running into, I ran into those a couple times where we had customers that threw like everything behind into analysis services, and we distributed some of it into PBI. And then we had other ones that threw everything to PBI, and you're like, okay, we're going to put analysis services in here too, to try to distribute that workload, and so they weren't overwhelming their systems.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So maybe another thing which could make sense as well is if Power BI is not the only tool which you use to access your semantic model. So maybe there are other tools, maybe Tableau, maybe Excel, maybe whatever, and then it would make sense to do it on analysis services and not within Power BI.
When I was in that team, that was the one thing we did notice, is that most customers already had Tableau, especially for me, because I was brought into the Oracle of situations most of the time, and they're like, oh, we do Tableau, and then we showed them Power BI, and it was the crack of Microsoft, and it just went from there. So you would say, you have Tableau, let's build the new reports in Power BI, and they would kind of shift over. So you would have those, oh, we can build these semantic models, and they'd never really had that in the Oracle world. They would have a data warehouse, they would massage the data in data marts, and saying, you can have a semantic model here, we can have that kind of protective layer between the two. And the data sets have matured so much in Power BI that we can start doing a lot of this in the Power BI layer. But there is that importance, where people say, oh, analysis services will go away, but I don't know if we'll ever be able to give it up. That there will either have to be an analysis services inside Power BI that can be separated out as a service to kind of dispel that workload.
That was exactly going to be my question, was that I thought that if the need for that was there, then surely with cloud we'd be hearing about analysis services as a PaaS solution. So it is what you've said. It feels like the obvious answer as we go forward is that people are going to embed into Power BI and do it, but actually, if you need to come out of that, well, hey, the engine must be there. Let's just expose that engine and enable it. I don't speak for Microsoft. I'm just surmising there might be,
I don't either.
It seems like a solution, because it's the one SQL Server product that isn't PaaS in some form.
Well, there's the Azure Analysis Services.
Yeah. Is that the same thing?
Not
is that
really.
Giving this, and this, it's like when ADF version 1 came out and it was SSIS in the cloud, and everybody went, no, it's not.
Yep. All of a sudden, people had the integration service for SSIS, and all of a sudden they were building it in there, and then we were like, can we just get rid of that and build it into ADF, please? Build the features into it that we really need. So yeah, it's evolving. It's constantly evolving, finding out what customers need and having the use cases that prove that they have to build it. And I think that comes with everything.
Yeah.
Synapse.
But I thought the cloud and all this automation was going to make data jobs go away.
No.
So
oh
confused.
no, we'll be employed forever. They're going to be digging our graves up. You know that, right?
This one knew Azure. Get it.
Yeah. I think what is happening is that the work just changes. So it changes from more away from the boring work, like doing backups or maybe optimizing SQL servers or something like this, to more things. Yeah, it depends on the SQL server you're running and the workload and everything. But on the other hand, more like where you don't work so much with the technology, but more with the context in the technology. And the problem on many things is that even if they are really really easy to use, like for example Power BI, or even in the former times Access, right? Even if the tools are easy to use, you have to have an understanding about data models, about data modeling, and everything. Because otherwise, even if you have a great tool and you have no knowledge about the things you're doing, you won't build a great solution.
Well, I mean, and Kellen, you were the one who told me this story. It was your husband was at a class or something, or in a discussion about the
Cosmos
Cosmos.
DB.
Yeah, Cosmos
That's what I was
DB.
just about to
Oh
joke
yeah, go
about.
ahead, do it,
Yeah.
do it. You do it
Yeah.
then. Go for it. I'll shut up
Yeah.
because it's your
So
story.
no, it's good, but it's the exact thing. He was sitting there listening about Cosmos DB and how you optimize it. And the first thing they said is you need to denormalize it and build out really a data warehouse inside your Cosmos DB. And, it's as much as things change, they never really do. And our skill sets end up coming back. We joke about building tomorrow's legacy systems today, and it happens. And I think when we make technology very easy for anyone to embrace, it makes it easy for them to build something that they themselves can't manage. And you need technical
Yeah,
specialists to come in and
exactly.
rein it back in and
Yeah,
build it out to be enterprise level. We
yeah,
saw this. I remember this back in SQL Server 2000, that when it came out, they said, you no longer really need a DBA. I don't know if you remember this marketing pitch,
no.
but they
Right. Oh yeah.
presented this. And I couldn't find SQL Server DBAs to hire to save my life. I could not find them. And I laughed because I said, that's right. You don't need SQL Server DBAs for the first 2 years. After that, you're in trouble. And
Yeah,
they did this with Oracle 2014 timeframe. Larry went up and said, you'll no longer need DBAs. And one of the Oak Table members, I think it was Morton Egan, went and installed Oracle with his nose. He went and got himself in a straitjacket and actually went through the installation with his nose to show how easy it was to install. That didn't mean you could keep it running
yeah,
without a DBA. And
Yeah.
that's the importance of this. So we don't do backups anymore. So we don't create databases anymore. But the interesting things and the things that companies need, we're always going to be needed.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean,
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
well, yeah. Well, I mean,
Good.
and pick on Cosmos DB for a second, right? Guaranteed, as magical and wonderful as it is, you can badly architect it. As magical and wonderful as it is, there's data in there you're going to want to have more protections on even than Microsoft offers, right? And I'm not picking on Microsoft. I'm just saying that there's
Yep.
the same problems exist. It's not that
Yeah,
because we've moved to the cloud, we've eliminated it's a self-tuning database. That's one of my favorite things from SQL Server 7. It was self-tuning, but it wasn't for those at home.
Not even close.
Not even
That's where I
close.
learned. Yeah.
Not even remotely close. Try running a few terabytes on it sometime. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. I mean, it's just funny because the cloud's amazing, but it's still just a lot of the work we're doing is still going to be the same. A lot of it, not all of it.
But the bottlenecks have moved. That's
Sure.
the thing that hits me.
yeah,
Even with Oracle, as I'm moving it onto Azure, I'm able to allocate the vCPU and the VRAM that I need, and we're dealing with I/O issues. And many of the I/O issues aren't on the database, but on the backup. Before they could just back up wherever they wanted. And now they're going, oh, just go to blob storage and you're fine. And I've got customers that are like, I need this backup done in 4 hours so I can get on with my life. And so we're getting them to rethink about how they're doing backup. Snapshots are extremely crucial, and realizing that we have a new thing that we're dealing with, a new challenge. And that keeps us readily employed. Nothing's going to change. It's just changing our skill set.
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Growing and
yeah.
expanding our skill set. Yeah. 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 That's fun
Hey,
stuff. All right. So
hey,
oh, go ahead.
I
Yeah.
was gonna throw something completely different. So we're talking about these big databases that we're moving into the cloud and the challenge of those. All right, what about all the databases that are in the IoT? What about
Yeah.
SQL database on the edge? where you've got
Exactly.
SQL installed on a Raspberry Pi that's in a truck,
Right.
in 1,000 trucks, in 10,000 trucks, driving around gathering this information.
Yeah.
Like there's all of this like it blows my mind. I'm like, wow, look, there's all of these things here that we could do.
Like we have more power on our smartphones than we did on the ships that went to the moon. Is that what we're thinking about that's blowing our mind versus how do we manage, how do we rein this all in?
It's the moving from a sort of a client to middleware to database layer to then we're going into the cloud. Maybe we've got things streaming stuff into it to now where the things that are generating the data that need to be streamed actually have their own SQL server on them.
Yeah.
So whereas before that might be I used to work in MOD with ships, so ships would have plenty of servers and things on them. Now you've got a truck is going to gather all of the data about it and put it into a SQL server, just in that little piece of IoT to do. So you've got, instead of lots of things pulling back into one big database that we need to look after, and maybe we've got 10,000 clients, so we've got 10,000 big databases to look after. Now we've got 10,000 SQL servers out in the world moving around, all doing their things. And I think it's amazing because it enables you as a database professional, or as a data professional perhaps, to be able to decide what fascinates you. Because if you want to look after great big databases, you can do that. If you want to look after 100,000 databases, you can do that. If you want to look after 100,000 SQL servers driving all around the world, you can do that. And you want to go into Databricks, you want to go, there's all of these other places we've talked about as well. But just literally on the infrastructure side, it's expanded the whole world by another factor. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's an ADHD playground. Let's just be honest.
Woo!
I'm happy.
I know.
I'm happy.
Me too.
I'm their spokesperson. I'm happy. So.
I didn't know you were the spokesperson. I thought I was the ADHD spokesperson.
I'm the spokeswoman. I'm the spokeswoman. Okay. Because women with ADHD are a whole different game. Just trust me. Ask my boss.
I will not argue. Hey, come on. I learned a long time ago not to argue with you. Proof I am not that stupid. See? I have it.
No, it's all good. And I think that's it, is that, for people to go into technology, one of the selling points I've always said is you will never be bored. It's always changing, and depending on where your interests lie, I mean, there are so many different arenas that you can start focusing on. And in the cloud, it's just times 1,000. I mean, everything's changing. And, right now we're dealing with certification tests, and everything that I need to learn that really has nothing to do with my day job is phenomenal. I mean, that I'm supposed to understand this all. And people say, we were just discussing, you can't know everything in the cloud. To know everything in AWS and Azure and GCP, and for me it was OCI, oh, forget it. I gave up a long time ago. So just go pick up what interests me and fascinates me at that moment.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I've been doing. I mean, I've been doing a lot of cloud stuff, but I've been focusing on trying to do Postgres in the cloud more than anything else, in terms of just learning new stuff. Not because of anything other than it would be good to know another database system.
So you're going to take over Oracle migrations, is what you're saying?
Yes!
But
How to destroy Oracle one Postgres database at a time.
Should I tell you that 80% of the workloads at Azure are all lift and shift? They can't go Postgres. You know this, right? We had that discussion.
Okay. Yeah. I know. I'm not
I
actually
break the heart of millions. Yeah.
I'm not actually lobbying for that. I crack joke. I crack anti-Oracle jokes. I actually got in trouble from at Redgate for cracking anti-Oracle
Yeah.
jokes.
I
When
just find that
it's
I
just humor,
break.
guys. It's just humor. I'm not
Yeah.
serious.
I really feel like I break a lot of hearts at Microsoft because, there is this idea that, oh, we can just take Oracle and put it on Postgres. And most of the time I come in, I look at the data from the AWR and I'm like, nope, can't go Postgres.
Yes, they say no.
Really? You can't? No, it can't. I'm sorry. And they just go away just heartbroken. And I don't know. I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, well.
I've got a picture in my head. I just want to. We need to shoot a video of it. I want to see this in real life.
Postgres heartbreaker.
Yeah,
I'm just going to put it right on my head. Yeah.
Tattooed right across here. I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody.
No problem. I think that all the work we have to do won't go away, but there's one very, very important thing. The very important thing is that you must be willing to learn. That's a very important thing.
Yes.
Because all changes all the time, and what you have to do is to keep up with it. You have to learn.
Yeah.
And a lot of technologists felt like they had this comfort zone, that they knew so much. They had this education already in them. And I won't lie, I've said this very clearly. The Oracle people know this, that on average, my Oracle specialists are about 10 years older than my Microsoft ones. And you saw that very clearly. They'd look at me with this exasperated, exhausted look going, Kellen, just leave us alone. We want to retire in peace. And I knew it. I knew that. And I felt for them. I understood this. But it's always about learning something new right now.
Yeah.
Where's just to finish, we know we're getting to the end, but this always interests me, is where's how do you deal with the challenge of, hey, Grant, you know everything. You've been doing it for many years. You talk and you speak and you're in all of this. Can you tell me about this Azure cloud thing? And you're like, nope.
Never heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. No idea.
Those 6 words have never been strung together in that order in my presence.
How does Databricks scale?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how do I deal with that? I deal with it with pure and unadulterated honesty. I really don't know. But I've got access to a list of people who do. So I could probably track somebody down.
Exactly.
And that's about the best I can do. I mean, but yeah, the interesting thing, I mean, because that's a great question, and what I've found is that you get one of two responses to that, and it really is one of two. Most people, most of the time will say, "Oh, okay, cool. Let me know who that is," and then off they go. They're happy.
Yeah.
And then there's a minority, and happily a very small minority, who scream and yell at you.
Yep.
Who are just angry because you're withholding. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're an expert.
Oh, you're an expensive resource, and you're expected to know.
Yeah.
I get a similar response, but I also feel like no matter if I even feel I know that topic very well, I will tell them, let me go verify this first, because Azure moves so fast.
Yes.
The cloud moves so fast. I'll go out and check the latest docs and find out somebody released something yesterday. So it is so important for me to check. I had a customer that I gave a complete resiliency review in the end of January, and they just came back and asked to go forward with that resiliency review. And I said, you know what? We need to redo it. And they were very frustrated, but I'm so happy we did, because there was a new service that they needed versus the one that I had recommended. An entire change had happened, an entire shift. And it happens all the time.
And the thing is, even if there is a special area of expertise, like for example Power BI or something like this, even if this is your expertise, you couldn't be sure that that you know everything about it, because for example, if you are doing trainings or something like this, and you pop up the Power BI website, it could be completely changed overnight.
And the website's different from the desktop.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. You have to know.
when we wrote this Power BI for Dummies book, we had to do all the screenshots again because they changed how Power BI looked, right? And we were very happy about this. But yeah, well, that's how the things go, right?
Yeah, well, that is how it goes. All right, we are at the end of time. So let me break the bad news for, well, you guys already know, Kellen, I'm breaking the bad news to you. This probably is the last one.
Oh,
There
okay.
hasn't been a lot of traction on it, so we're probably going to shut it down. Although
All right.
maybe what I'll
Thank
do is just give it a few weeks rest and then maybe have another one. Just pull you guys in again if you're interested.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
If nothing else, I love hanging out with you guys.
We'll
And
just
since-
do happy hours and invite the cool kids. How's that?
Yeah, maybe we should do that. But anyway, we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm so grateful you guys are willing to hang out and do these kinds of things. You're awesome. So keep being that way, and we'll talk soon.
Definitely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, end stream. There we go. And now end the meeting. Bye, guys.